How messy is your family? I found out my mom was actually adopted, but the more I looked into my family, the worse it got. When I was 10, we stayed over at my grandparents' house for a week as part of a big family reunion. I was super excited to see everyone since it had been almost a year. We arrived at the big family house in the middle of a farm and greeted my grandparents. They let me explore the house on my own while all the adults sat around to talk. I snuck around near the kitchen where my aunt and mom were preparing a meal together. I secretly grabbed a snack and was just about to leave the vicinity when they suddenly hugged and called each other sister. At first I thought it was just short for sister-in-law, but I later found out that it wasn't the case. I found my aunt's old room and tried on one of her vintage dresses. I looked around the room at the old pictures and spotted one of her and my mom smiling. I found a box in one corner that had old pictures and papers, and I spotted my mom's name on one of the documents. It was a little difficult to understand a lot of the words, given that I was just 10, but I definitely recognized the word adopted. I also recognized the names of my grandparents on the paper. I kept digging through the box and found my aunt's adoption papers as well, and realized that I may not actually be related to any of my relatives here, which made me super sad. I walked out of the room, holding my mom's adoption papers, and returned to the kitchen to confirm the truth. Instead, I found my grandma in the kitchen. Seeing her kind smile made me burst into tears. I jumped into my grandma's arms and started crying about not being part of the family. She patted my back until I calmed down and placed on her glasses to read the paper in my hand. She smiled and said, "Silly peanut, you are related to us by blood through your dad." That made me even more confused. How could my grandparents have adopted my mom but also be related to my dad? The math was not mathing. I searched around the house for my parents and spotted them on the porch swing together. I handed them the adoption papers quietly and stood there looking at them. My dad definitely did look more like my grandma than my mom, but I didn't get it. My mom picked me up and pulled me into her lap on the swing and started telling me a fairy tale. When I was very young, I lost my parents. They were my only family, and I felt very sad. So while I was moving from house to house, I met your dad, and we became best friends. My dad joined in and said, "Your mom was suddenly told that she was moving away again soon, so I made a plan to save her. I introduced your mom to my auntie, who always wanted kids. She adopted your mom, and we became cousins on paper, but we were still best friends. And because of love, we had you." At the time, their explanation was actually pretty great and easy to follow, and I loved knowing that I was at least still a part of the family. It wasn't until a few years later that I realized how crazy their story actually was. They were legally cousins as well as husband and wife.